They said he was entitled. They said he was a bust. Cris Carter went on national TV and told the world that Shedeur Sanders had ruined his life. But this morning, the Cleveland Browns made it official. Shedeur is QB1, and Cris Carter had to face the music. In a stunning moment on his podcast, the Hall of Famer didn't double down. He folded. He said, "I looked at the watch and the dad, and I missed the player. I said he wouldn't make it. I was wrong. The kid has earned it the hard way. Shedeur, I apologize." But Deion Sanders didn't let him off the hook that easy. I'm going to show you the video Deion posted mocking Carter's expert analysis while smoking a cigar in his new Cleveland office. Subscribe and hit the bell right now. If you want to see Prime take a victory lap, click that button. Let's watch the response. Here is the moment the biggest hater finally bent the knee.
I'm mature. I'm like, listen, I made a mistake. But now you see the talent. You see the cream rise to the top. Very, very happy for him. Very happy for him.
The biggest hater has officially surrendered. For months, we listened to Hall of Famer Cris Carter tear down Shedeur Sanders. He called him a fifth-round talent. He said Deion Sanders ruined his career by coddling him. He questioned his grit, his arm, and his character. But today, Cris Carter is singing a very different tune. He has officially issued a public apology, admitting he was dead wrong about the Cleveland Browns' new franchise quarterback. And he didn't stop there. He is now demanding the Browns trade Dylan Gabriel immediately to clear the way for Shedeur. This is absolutely insane. The apology tour has officially begun, and the list of critics eating their words is getting longer by the hour. Let's break down the flip-flop of the century.
I'm looking to trade Dylan Gabriel.
Okay.
Immediately.
To truly understand the magnitude of this moment, to understand why this apology hits so hard, you have to go back and remember the disrespect. You have to remember exactly what was said. Cris Carter didn't just critique Shedeur's game. He attacked his entire existence as a football player. Just a few months ago, Carter was sitting on national television, looking into the camera with total confidence, and claiming that Shedeur Sanders should be a fifth-round pick. Let that sink in. A fifth-rounder. He wasn't saying Shedeur was a late first-rounder. He wasn't saying he was a project. He was effectively saying Shedeur Sanders was barely draftable talent. He argued that Deion Sanders had done his son a massive disservice. He painted a picture of a spoiled, entitled kid who had been hidden from real competition. He said things like, he likes guys to be a little more open. He doesn't have a big-time arm. He's not a big guy. He's not overly athletic. Carter listed every reason why Shedeur would fail. He stripped away every accolade Shedeur earned at Colorado and Jackson State and attributed it all to hype. But look at what Carter is saying now. The tone has shifted completely. Now we hear, I'm mature. I'm like, listen, I made a mistake. You see the talent? You see the cream rise to the top. The cream rises to the top. That is a Hall of Famer admitting that talent cannot be suppressed by a narrative. But the wildest part of this pivot is his stance on Dylan Gabriel. For months, critics used Dylan Gabriel as a weapon against Shedeur. They said Gabriel was the safer pick, the better option. Now, Carter is pounding the table, yelling, trade Dylan Gabriel immediately. He isn't going to make a difference. He went from Shedeur is a fifth-rounder to clear the room, get rid of the competition, and give Shedeur the keys to the franchise. Why? Because the tape doesn't lie. Shedeur went out there, ignored the noise, and played like a 10-year veteran. Carter realized that if he kept hating, if he kept pushing the fifth-round narrative, he was going to look like a fool when the 2026 season kicked off. He had to pivot to save his own credibility.
He likes guys to be a little more open before he lets it go. And he doesn't have a big-time arm. He's not a big guy. He's not overly athletic. So his measurables are not, I'm mature. I'm like, listen, I made a mistake.
But Cris Carter isn't alone in this apology line. we have to talk about Rex Ryan, because if Carter attacked the talent, Rex Ryan attacked the human being. Rex Ryan's criticism was arguably even more personal and far more damaging. He didn't just say Shedeur couldn't throw. He called him a bad, spoiled person. Do you remember that? He called him an embarrassment to the league. He criticized his body language. He criticized the way he stood on the sideline. He said, "If I know, the whole league knows. Quit being an embarrassment." It was brutal. It was unnecessary. And frankly, it felt like pure hate disguised as analysis. It was a character assassination attempt on a young man who had never been in legal trouble, never failed a drug test, and graduated college early. But once Shedeur Sanders stepped on that NFL field and started dissecting defenses, Rex Ryan had nowhere to hide. You can fake a narrative, but you can't fake touchdowns. You can't fake leadership in the huddle. Rex Ryan came out recently and had to eat the biggest slice of humble pie in sports media history. He admitted, "He has so much ability. I was mistaken. I want to see him out there like anybody else." The same guy who said Shedeur was entitled is now praising his football IQ. The same guy who said he was a bad person is now rooting for his success. It proves one thing undeniably. The narrative about Shedeur being soft or spoiled was completely fabricated. It was a story made up by people who were judging his last name, his watch, and his father.
Quarterback with his arms crossed like this. Get your ass in the front row and study and do all that. If I know, the whole league knows. Quit being an embarrassment that way.
We cannot tell this story without addressing the local antagonist, the man on the ground in Cleveland, Tony Grossi. If you are a Browns fan, you know this name. You know the frustration. Tony Grossi has been relentless. Throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, Grossi was the conductor of the hate train. He was allegedly putting out negative reports daily. He was the one telling the fan base he doesn't look good in practice. He was the one mocking Shedeur's injury toughness. He was the one leading the Dylan Gabriel is better crusade. Grossi even abused Shedeur over an injury, suggesting he was soft and couldn't handle the physical demands of the AFC North. It was cruel. It was constant. And it felt like he had an agenda to make sure the fans turned on Shedeur before he even took a snap. But even Tony Grossi, the most stubborn beat writer in the game, has cracked. After watching the offense look completely stagnant without Shedeur, and then watching it turn electric with him, Grossi had to fold. He admitted on air, "If those plays are intercepted, it's a different game. But we are calling for Shedeur Sanders." He acknowledged that when you surround him with a good supporting cast, you see the magic. When the guy who has been reporting negatively on you for 6 months suddenly says, "We are calling for Shedeur Sanders," you know the war is over. Shedeur didn't just beat the opposing defenses, he beat the Cleveland media machine.
So much ability that I want to see him out there like anybody else.
Yeah.
And why the hell he's not out there, it
makes no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Now, let's dig deeper. Let's talk about the root cause of all this hate, the daddy ball narrative. This was the weapon everyone used. They said, he's only here because of Deion. They said, Coach Prime protects him. They said, he's never faced real adversity because his dad paved the road for him. This was the core argument for Cris Carter and Rex Ryan. They believed that because Deion Sanders was his coach, Shedeur was soft. They believed that the Sanders circus was a distraction that hid a lack of talent. But the 2026 season exposed that as a lie. When Shedeur got to Cleveland, Deion wasn't his coach. Deion wasn't in the huddle. Deion wasn't throwing the blocks. Shedeur was on his own, in a grown man's league, facing grown man coverages. And what happened? Did he crumble without his dad? Did he look lost without daddy ball? No. He looked better. He showed that the coddling narrative was nonsense. He showed that the years spent under Deion weren't about protection. They were about preparation. The daddy ball myth died the moment Shedeur threw his first NFL touchdown. The critics realized that Deion didn't hide Shedeur. He built him. He built a quarterback who could handle the pressure, who could handle the media, and who could handle the blitz. The apology from Carter is an admission that the daddy ball take was lazy analysis. It was an easy thing to say to get clicks, but it had no basis in reality. Shedeur proved he is his own man, with his own arm and his own legacy.
So if those plays are intercepted, it's a different game altogether, and we're calling for Shedeur Sanders.
We need to spend some time on Dylan Gabriel, because his role in this story is fascinating. For months, the media used Dylan Gabriel as a pawn. They didn't necessarily love Dylan Gabriel, but they loved using him to hurt Shedeur Sanders. They propped Gabriel up as the professional option. They said, look at Gabriel. He's quiet, he's fundamentally sound, he's the anti-Shedeur. Tony Grossi pushed this hard. He wanted Gabriel to start because it validated his criticism of Shedeur. But look at what happened. The moment the Browns committed to Shedeur, Dylan Gabriel became expendable to the media. Suddenly, Cris Carter is yelling, trade him, get what you can. It shows how disingenuous the support for Gabriel was. They didn't care about Dylan Gabriel's career. They just wanted a weapon to use against the Sanders family. Now that the weapon doesn't work, because Shedeur is clearly better, they are tossing Gabriel aside. It's a cold world in the NFL, but it's even colder in the sports media. Gabriel was a shield for their hate, and now that the hate has been disproven, the shield is being discarded. It vindicates Shedeur even more, showing that the competition was never really about football skills. It was about narrative control. And Shedeur destroyed that narrative. What makes this victory so sweet for Shedeur Sanders isn't just that he won on the field, it's how he won the mental war. Think about other athletes in this position. When they get attacked by Hall of Famers, what do? They hop on Twitter, they go on Instagram Live, they clap back, they create drama. Shedeur Sanders could have done that. He could have quoted Cris Carter's tweet and said, "You don't know ball." He could have called out Rex Ryan for being a failed coach. He could have banned Tony Grossi from the locker room. But he didn't. He did something far more dangerous. He stayed silent. He practiced. He studied the playbook. He worked on his footwork. He let the silence amplify the noise of his success. By not responding, he forced the critics to debate themselves. He gave them no fuel. If he had clapped back, they would have said, "See, he's immature." He's focused on social media. By staying quiet, he took away their ammunition. He forced them to watch the tape. And when they watched the tape, they had no choice but to apologize. His silence was his loudest weapon. It showed a level of maturity that Cris Carter claimed he didn't have. It showed a level of focus that Rex Ryan said was missing. He defeated them by ignoring them. And that is why they are apologizing now. They realize they were screaming at a wall, and the wall just kept winning. There is one group we haven't mentioned yet, and they are the most important group of all. The Cleveland Browns locker room. While the media was tearing Shedeur down, the locker room was quietly rallying around him. While Tony Grossi was reporting that he looked bad in camp, his receivers were telling a different story. You saw it in the games. You saw how the offensive line blocked for him. You saw how the defense celebrated with him. Players know players. You can't fool an NFL locker room. If Shedeur was spoiled or lazy or entitled, his teammates would have sniffed it out in 24 hours. They would have frozen him out. But they didn't. They embraced him. They saw the work ethic. They saw the talent. The disconnect between what the media was saying and what the team was feeling was massive. The apology tour we are seeing now is basically the media catching up to the reality of the locker room. The players knew in August what Cris Carter is just finding out in January. The Browns organization firing Kevin Stefanski and committing to Shedeur wasn't just a front office decision. It was a decision driven by the pulse of the team. The team wanted Shedeur. The media wanted drama. The team won.